I guess so. Now I just want to focus on anybody who's trying to, become a sole practitioner. Um, what advice would you have for young black, not even just attorneys, maybe young black kids, or professionals who want to transition into law, or just young black kids who are thinking about law school and want to open up their own practice? What are, let's say maybe three, you know, good things um, to look for or to avoid?
Well, if I start with the current attorney who wants to go into private practice, you really have to find an area you are passionate about, okay? Because practicing law, really, if you're going to be in private practice, it's as close to 24/7 as it gets, okay? So you really have to like what you're doing, and you have to see the outcome. And the outcome can't simply be money. I mean, you make more money in private practice, but the outcome can't simply just be money, because that gets tired really quick. And I will tell you the things that I have done personally where I got satisfaction is not things I've made money from, it's things where I actually made a difference, okay? And I shared earlier with the fact that something that I did 10 years ago, matter of fact, it's longer than that now, was I went to Ghana, West Africa with a good friend of mine who's off of Wall Street. And other things is, if you're gonna go into private practice, those of us who wanna do that, you need to talk to other people in other disciplines.
Absolutely.
Who you can work with, whether it be banking, real estate, whatever it is, because you want to be able to get real good clients and who can help carry your practice while you can do other things that you really like.
So
Yeah.
just to stay right there, because that's kind of a topic I wanted to discuss. How did you really build your client base, as a private practitioner? Because I think that's a lot of what deters people from doing that. Especially us, because if we wanna help our community doesn't necessarily come to us, because there's sometimes there's a view, it's like,
Well,
what
so
you you got this,
Yeah,
I want a real lawyer
yeah, real
or something
lawyer.
like that. So
Well, see, let me disabuse you of that notion, because I used to think that too, that our community doesn't come to us. It does. You just have to learn to meet them where they were, because I was told by an attorney who was in private practice when I came out, that don't think that, they will come. See, we have to begin approaching them, not just on a business level, but on a social level, talking to them. Let's go back to the barbershop, which I think is a great black institution, okay? I watched my dad talk to everybody about everything, okay? The kids, what's going on in the economy, what's happening in the White House, what's happening locally, and from that, you begin to hear what problems are and what people's needs are, okay? Now, to answer your question better, I listened to what our community needed. Most people at the time I was going into private practice was trying to figure out how to deal with their housing issue, either by buying a piece of property, getting a good place to live, either renting, or they had issues with selling a piece of property, or they had inherited a piece of property. Southeast Queens, the economy of Southeast Queens comes a lot from real property, either by buy, sell, the banking part of it, the renting part of it. So that's something that was really needed. So it wasn't so much that I jumped into real estate because I wanted to go there, it's what the community needed. But I liked it, okay? I actually liked it because people were having all kinds of problems with real estate. So it grew just immediately out of that and having a working knowledge of what people had to do, because I was working full-time, but people always came to me for advice. So I began taking cases on, one at a time. And then honestly, it blew up overnight. It honestly blew up overnight. And then I had one time when Chase Bank actually came to us and said, you're in the community, would you be interested not only in representing people in the community, would you represent the bank in doing closing, which became now an institutional client. Well, we've been sent people all over the place. In fact, we had to expand the office, we had to get another house to go with the regular structure to do closings in, and it grew from there. The thing is, you gotta be in it though, all right? Because some people, they'll try to do something on the side. It doesn't really work that way, because the opportunities are there. So once I began talking to people just generally about what it is that they wanted and they needed, it took off from there. And that's the best way I can possibly describe that. And I always tell people first, do what you like, all right? Because if you do what you like, it doesn't really feel like work, okay? But I ask young men, what is it, and young ladies, what is it that really grabs you? The problem I have is that a lot of them want to do things to become famous.
Yes.
Okay, but a lot of them don't focus on the amount of work that goes into it.
Right.
If you're going to do something worthwhile, it's a lot of work, all right? So the way, again, I push back is, tell me what you like. Because if you like it, it really doesn't feel like work. I like what I do, okay? I like being a stable person in the community who people come to and talk to. I like that. I even feed off of that to some extent. But I like making a change. So what I really like doing is making a change in someone's life, because I took certain cases where it make a change in someone's life. Again, the project I'm talking about was someone who I went over to Africa with. We were able to produce a factory that made pharmaceutical products for, generic drugs for West Africa, Ghana and a good bit of West Africa. Now, I made money. I didn't make millions of dollars from doing it, but the satisfaction of it, where people got jobs in the local village. A young kid came up to me and shook my hand and said, now my dad has a job. Those things really meant a lot to me, and I made a difference in that situation. I remember taking a case of a woman who her house was taken from her by a guy she was getting ready to marry, and what happened was she put his name on the deed just before they got married.
And he took off.
Well, no, this was terrible. He did worse. But long story short, I was able to sue, and a few attorneys turned this down. I didn't make any money off this case. A few attorneys turned it down, and I was able to get the house back in her name because it was considered a breach of contract. Instead of a ring, you get the ring back, she got the house back. You know what I mean? Those little things.
That's a win.
And that was a win. But what it did in terms of generating business and referrals was astronomical. There's a lot of business out there. Sometimes you're afraid to make the leap, but once you make the leap and people know you. But you know what? People want to know who you are when they come to you. They know you're a lawyer. And what I always do is I take a moment and I talk to people about who they are, and I tell them who I am. If you want one really good hint. Now, you can't walk into my office and not know who I am. First of all, if you go down the hall, I have a lot of paintings, all right? A lot of paintings of African American people, so on and so forth. If you go into my conference room, I have pictures of my entire family. So you understand that I'm a family guy. You understand I'm from Southeast Queens. You understand I ain't trying to go nowhere, okay? I'm gonna be here. That gives them a certain level of, wait a minute, I'm talking to somebody who I can relate with. Oh yeah, they happen to be my lawyer too.
Right.
Okay, now see, my dad, by running a barbershop, they call him Hop, that's his name, okay? He happens to be the barber, but what they look at is a guy who's their friend, who they can hang out with, they can talk to, so on and so forth. And we gotta get back to that in terms of developing the business. So when you go out and you talk to people, let them get a sense of who you are, okay? And then once they like you, everything else becomes academic, okay? But again, pick who you want. But with the younger kids, unfortunately, you gotta show them something shiny, okay?
It's true.
You gotta show them something shiny, and then when you get them interested by showing them something shiny, then you can get them to really pick a profession. So you can say, yeah, maybe you won't make it to the NBA, but you can represent an NBA player.
Right.
And then they begin to see it because they're caught up in the bright lights. And I don't really blame them because this is the world we're in, okay? So you gotta get to them a little bit differently. But you gotta wanna work. If you don't like working, leave private practice.
Gotcha.
No doubt.
You got any advice? No?
Criminal defense is hard.
Yeah.
It's emotional.
Yeah.
It's taxing.
So we haven't talked really about the emotional toll on that. Like, you want to explain that a little bit?
I mean, you're really, as a criminal defense attorney, going through your client's trauma at the same time. You're not necessarily going through exactly what they're going through because you're not looking at jail time, but you're going through the ringer between trial, discovery, sitting down and telling the client, hey, the offer is life in prison. Like, those are the conversations that you have to have, and it's emotionally taxing. But the reward at the end of it is your client goes free, your client gets to start life over, your client actually gets a second chance at life.
Right.
I did a trial last year, and the offer for my client was 12 to life. My client had not spent a summer outside of prison since he was like 12. And he caught a case, 12 to life, and I said, hey, listen, And I remind a lot of my clients, like, at this point, we're in a relationship because we're in this for the long haul.
Right.
Because I want clients to know, hey, I'm here for the long haul, you can trust me, we have to do this. And we took the case to trial. There's this thing that we have called 30-30, meaning if they don't present the case in a certain amount of time, the case gets dismissed.
Speedy trial, basically.
Speedy trial.
Yeah.
So in this case, I needed 183 days. I got 182. And it was a violent felony. We went to trial. We got a not guilty, and I cried. My client cried. My co-counsel cried. Like, it was emotionally taxing because I got to see my client. Finally, he was going to get to enjoy a summer for the first time in over 20 years.
And how long was that case active since he got arrested?
2 years.
2
years. He got arrested 2017, and we tried it in 2019.
And he was in that whole time?
No, he was out.
He was out.
He was out. But
Wow.
I think for me, the hardest part was sitting him down and saying, hey, if it's a guilty verdict, you may end up spending the rest of your life in prison.
Yeah.
But this is where we are. We have to try the case. They're not going to do anything better, so you have to trust me. If you don't trust me, I can't try this case. And I tell clients all the time, if you don't trust me, we can't move forward.
Right.
And I didn't try a case after that last year because I was so emotionally drained from that case.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to do our work, you have to. You can't do our work if you're going to be emotionally drained. Like, it just takes so much because you're taking on more than a case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You're
You're
taking your
taking
client's
on
life.
all the problems our clients have.
Exactly.
From
And
emotional
yeah.
to therapy,
Trauma.
financial,
Yeah.
whatever issues they're going through with their wife or
Yeah,
husband.
Yeah. Family
Like,
law.
you're going through
Yeah.
everything with them.
Yeah, it's never just criminal law.
Never.
You can't just know criminal law. You have to know family
Immigration.
law, immigration. You have to know all types of stuff, and all of that brings drama and emotional pain and hurt and stuff. So it's a lot to balance. So, you know.
What I want to add to what she said, I like this, the phrase you used about a new start,
Right.
because a lot of folks need a new start, okay? And when I go back to the real estate stuff I was doing, one of the things I was proud to be able to do is to educate my community to how bankruptcy could be used, because that gives people a new start. Because a lot of folks have problems at a certain point in their life. Someone may have been ill, they may have been young and made a lot of foolish mistakes. And the thing is, well, how do you get a fresh start? And something like bankruptcy can be used in a very effective way to do it if you qualify. So as part of the whole package that I would do, I would actually get people into Chapter 7 bankruptcy, have them discharged, and a year later they're buying a house.
Right.
So here you had real economic growth, where you were basically in the toilet, and now you're riding in a much different situation. And I've always loved investing in real estate because it's the one thing God ain't making no more of and continues to increase.
Right.
So and believe me, you can build financial worth from doing something like buying real estate. And I've gotten people to go from bankruptcy to buying a piece of property, then buying another piece of property, and then leveraging those properties to do all kinds of things, start a business and put their kids through college.
Well, you know, I would say this. You would never know that bankruptcy could be used as a tool for something positive, because the way I've heard of bankruptcy, it
It's
means
negative.
like, oh, you're broke, you've done this, you know, I've never heard it
Yeah,
explained in a way. Well, I guess because in our community, you know, you who have done bankruptcy, and you can sit here and you can say to us, you know, bankruptcy can actually be an effective tool. I've never heard bankruptcy in a positive
Yeah.
light. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
always
But
been.
it sounds, I mean, what, monopoly, right?
Right.
The goal was not to go bankrupt.
Right,
you know, so
right,
it's always
right.
turned
It's
like a
always like
negative-
bankruptcy is not something
Yeah,
you
you
want or
want,
something
yeah.
you should do.
Right.
And now you're saying, no, you know, you don't have to put a negative connotation on bankruptcy. You know, it really opens your eyes to things that you really don't know, even though you're an attorney
right.
yourself.
Mhm, right, yeah.
Because some people would never get out of debt unless they were able to file it. And like I said, a fresh start. Now, the laws have changed over time. There's certain things you can't discharge, but a lot of things you can. Get rid of basically all your credit cards. That's not a problem. Student loans, well, you just gotta hang on.
Yeah, you gotta hang on.
That's not going anywhere.
That ain't going nowhere. I wish you
That's
know,
my
right,
advice.
we gotta get rid of them
See
things.
if you really want to do law
Right.
before you take up them loans.
Right,
because,
right.
ooh,
Go to public school.
Yeah.
But I have seen
Shout out
someone
Cutie.
go I have seen someone go through bankruptcy, then get real property, have equity in it, refinance the real property, and pay off all the student loans. I have
Oh,
seen.
Wow.
That's a way to do it as well.
I mean, you giving me ideas, Mr. Hopkins.
Give the world ideas.
Right. You giving me ideas.
Way to go.
All right. I mean, so listen. I think we pretty much wrapping up here. But you know, I think this was a crucial episode for Black History. I think every year in February we're gonna do something like this. So I appreciate y'all for being here. And we'll do a cheers. You know. Cheers for
Cheers to me. No.
cheers being black. Black professionals. All right, man.
Cheers, guys.
Go vote.
Go vote. All right, man. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Remember, subscribe. We'll see y'all next time.
Dark tie, dark glasses, dark shirt, that's dark fashion. I can't stand it, no ration. The L's I give 'em, that's my passion. In other words, I am smoking you in your cubicle. Like recycling styrofoam, you're unusable. See, it's undeniable that